So welcome. This is so much fun. So much fun. I am Debbie Saviano, and I'm so thrilled to have my dear friend Debbie Mrazek here. We got two Debbies on the screen here. So we were just talking about Whataburger, Debbie's favorite place, and so she's kind of made me a Whataburger fan as well. There you go. There you go.
Got to support the cause.
That's right, absolutely. So whether you're watching this live or recorded, so grateful and appreciative that you're here. And today we're going to talk about sales, and for many that's a four-letter word because you start saying sales, or if people even think you're going to start talking about sales, you'll notice they start backing up. I think that we're kind of, it's an innate thing about us, and this is so perfect, Debbie, because did you hear the thunder?
Yes.
We're talking about sales, and it's thunder and lightning. We have a huge storm in North Texas, so we're just grateful, Debbie and I, are that we have internet connections. So, hello, Miss Olivia. So happy that you're here, and we're thrilled to be able to talk about this because I consider Debbie a sales guru, a sales muse, if you will. She's really someone who's able to talk about sales. I've heard her speak many times over the years about it, and she shows us how we can all be successful at sales. And I think that, many times when you watch someone on a show or whatever, we go through the bios, we introduce ourselves, we've got like a 5 or 7 minute. Actually, I watched one recently and I was like, a couple of weeks ago, oh my gosh, just get to the point. I'm here to hear the person. This isn't about Debbie Saviano. It's really not about Debbie Mrazek. It's right. About what Debbie's going to share with sales. It's going to help all of us. And so whether we like to admit it or not, sales is something we all do every day if we're going to be successful. So your time is valuable. We want you to be here. We want you to listen and learn. And so please put your comments in the sidebar, and we'll try to address those as we go through comments and questions. And so let's get right into talking about Debbie Mrazek and the Field Guide to Sales. I love this book. So Debbie, as I was reading the book, and I've read it a couple times actually, and I was seeing that how you talk about Terry Pritchett. Is he still alive?
He is not.
Yeah,
I
had a feeling because from the age difference and stuff, I figured probably not. But because that's been 30 plus years ago, you give him credit in the book as your inspiration, and your description of Terry with his constant smoking, his constant coffee cup in his hand, and kind of gruff, it was the time, right?
Right.
But to dedicate your book to him.
Exactly. Well, let me share with you. He was still alive when I did the book.
Oh, good.
But I had not seen him in years. No communication. When you're young, you know it all.
Right.
Kind of deal. I'm right. He was wrong. He was an idiot, kind of thing. And then realized, like I say in the book, I figured out, and in my dedication, he was a genius. But what I had done, though, was I did not ask his permission to talk about him or dedicate the book to him. So when I got it, I wrote him a little thing in the book and I just mailed it to him, FedExed. Hadn't heard from him in years or whatever. And his wife told me at his funeral, he cried that day.
Oh,
because he was so gruff and tough, and people didn't really understand sometimes the goodness in him because he really was good and how brilliant he was because of his delivery.
Right.
But before he passed away, you know how sometimes our women's intuition when we're younger, we don't trust it so much, but the older we get, we think, Well, I had this since he was living in College Station and that I should go see him. So I called. You'll love this. He wanted to meet at Chewy's at the bar in College Station. I drive up, park. There's a hog motorcycle, and I'm thinking, I know that's him. I just know it is. And he had not been well, but it's just like, I know that's him. I walk in, he knows the bartender, he knows everybody there, and we are eating at the bar. And it was like fabulous. And it was one of those when I was leaving, I thought, I'm afraid, this will be the last time I see him, but it was wonderful. Well, fast forward, he has a beautiful family. And so my book, sometimes I go out on half price books and see, people sell their books back and they're in great condition. And so I buy them. So I bought one. It was out of Tennessee or something. When I opened it, Debbie, you cannot make this up. It was the book that I sent to him with all my 2-page handwritten note.
How that's not a God thing, I cannot
if that is not, I don't know what is. And of course I have it and cherish it, but I'm sure he had many books and his family just packed them all up and,
But the fact that you found that book, oh my gosh, that's incredible. We have some awesome people here. Ann Small, Rob Bliss, Olivia, Debbie Womack. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And it's going to be fun because all of you who know Debbie, nothing is not fun, right?
And all of them are fun, Miss Saviano.
That's what I'm saying. We've got a great group here. So how has sales changed, Debbie, from the time you work with Terry to today? I mean, what's changed in that time frame?
Well, fundamentally, I would say nothing, because sales is dealing with people. People buy from people, people sell to people. And, but with the advent of technology, of course, things have changed in the way and the time. You don't have to do it 8 to 5 anymore. You have all this communication. The customer has so much access to so much information on their own now before they even reach out to you, or that they have a need. But sales itself, still the art of sales is about people and communication, whether written or spoken.
Right. And I think that's the gift of the technology you talk about today, because it enables us to have such a broader range of connections. I mean, we truly do have, access to the world now. All you got to have is an internet connection. Like on a rainy day like today in North Texas, I was a little worried about us, but that's all you have to have, right? I mean, that's what you have to have. And so you're true. It expands our opportunities, but it also challenges us because people do have access to information. They can set us, they can, your digital footprint today. There's a commercial on TV, and I can't think of which one it is. It's one of the financial organizations, but they talk about, is this you? And they talk about they did their homework. People do homework today. They do their homework. So
they definitely do.
I remember when I first got your book, and this has been several years back, and you have a dollar bill in it. And I thought, is that not clever? And look at this. I never took the dollar out.
And you know what?
Probably most people don't.
A lot of people don't. And many people have mailed it back to me saying, I'm so sorry. I don't know how it got there. I apologize. And I'm returning it.
Well, I was going to feel bad because I didn't mail the dollar back. I kept the dollar.
No.
He wants me to have this dollar. This wouldn't be in here. And I know how creative you are. And I thought, what a cute, creative idea. What made you think to do that? Because
I had ordered bookmarks to put in the book.
Oh, okay.
They didn't come in time.
So
I thought, well, okay, I could put $1 in there, because one of the things I always say is I'm talking about real money, not monopoly money when I'm talking about sales. And so I thought, well, a real dollar would make the point that I'm always making. Well, it ended up, I never used one of those bookmarks. When they did come, I put $1, $2, even $100 in one of them.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the story with Stacy when she first started HSC, and she had her rollers on her hair and everything not done. And they come and say, you've got to go. She goes, I'm not ready. And she's like, you know what? Take advantage. And then for all these years, she's gone on TV with hair and rollers and no makeup. So bookmarks didn't come. And so you just improvise and put the dollar, which is a heck of a lot more exciting and fun. And it's not about the money. It's the little messaging that it sends.
Right. Exactly. Because I think it's so important. You mentioned it earlier about talking about people being afraid of sales and, kind of thing and all. But at the end of the day, it's about money. Right. Real money. It's how you eat. It's how you have a place to live. So we should talk about it in a real way.
That's such an interesting fact. One of the reasons I love talking to you all the time, Debbie, and so many of these people on here on the call today, we know personally. The fact today, I really do think, and this is probably some of my age too, but if we had to take this dollar plus 50 more or 100 more at the gas station, we probably would be a little bit more angry about filling up a gas tank. But instead, we have a debit card or we have our phone or whatever. It's not the same. It's not the same. I'm sorry, it's not.
It's not.
And so I think if we had to do that. So why do you think most or many oftentimes people struggle with sales? Why do you think that is?
Well, in our country specifically, we have always had a stereotype of the sales person is like a flim flam man. It's like, they're fake. They're this, they're that. And I really have never understood how that idea, maybe, from the carnival or the circus or, those kinds of things. But it is a stereotype. And so many people think that. But the truth of the matter is, we all, or many of us on this call probably know an old movie called Glengarry Glen Rose with Alec Baldwin. And it was the quintessential sales movie, people thought, always be closing, always be closing. Well, the real truth of sales is, of course, you have to close business so you can make that real money. But the real thing with sales is to always be caring. The true ABC of sales is always be caring. People don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And it's not caring about yourself, it's caring about them.
Right.
And what their problem is and how your solution can help them alleviate that problem.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that we always forget. So that's why I try really not to do bios when I do these, because people don't care. If they want to know about us, number one, they probably already know us. Number two, if they don't, they want to know more, they'll go to LinkedIn, AKA LinkedIn. I think that's why it's such an invaluable resource.
Yes.
And I know Ann on here as well is also a huge advocate for LinkedIn. And this is another example. People always think, oh, well, I can't promote her or him because it's competition. There's no competition. There's plenty of work for everybody. Who needs Ann doesn't need me. Who needs me doesn't need Ann. There's no competition with these things. And so people often worry about that when instead we should just be promoting how can we best help the other person. That's what it's about. Lori, it's so great to see real women talking about real money, not revenue, because our businesses are about making real money to make our living and support ourselves, our families, our communities. Amen to that, Lori. I think we would all agree with that for sure. And I always think too, I've never had I don't know why. I don't know if it's my background. I'm not sure why, but I've never had a challenge with sales. And the reason I never have is because I truly believe the service I'm offering or the product is really going to help someone. And so because of that, I'm like, I want to share it if you're coming to me for that, because I think it can help you. That's why I do it, right? I mean, that's why.
Well, I will tell you, there was a point I did struggle in the beginning. I didn't know. I worked for a huge corporation, Texas Instruments. Many of you know, selling semiconductors. So you have lots of people that work with you and help you. There weren't sales classes, but you saw people doing it. So you had people to model in your division or department. Those kinds of things, and so you learn that way. And so then I went on and I sold many technology things. I could do that all day long in my sleep. Of course, I knew the companies I was representing. I believed in them, all of that. But let me tell you where it went a little haywire for me. And that's when I started consulting. And what do we sell when we're consulting? Ourselves. Mm-hmm. I could sell Debbie Saviano and Small, Rob Bliss, anybody all day long, but selling myself, that was a trick. But when I really began to understand that, I believed in myself as much as I did Texas Instruments semiconductors. And I knew I had expertise. I knew I had things to share. And so it just took a little time. And that's where I came into networking and referrals, and God love LinkedIn, because then, there are other things saying what you do without you going, listen, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years, kind of thing. There's other things that say that people, believe and, consider, true sources. So yeah, that was a bit tough, and I do see other people struggle with that, but you can get past it.
Right. And I think that's such a good point, Debbie, because I always say to people, every social media platform has a specific purpose, reason, et cetera, if you will. But for me, the reason I was attracted to LinkedIn in the beginning, because it is the one place you sell yourself. People come to LinkedIn either for whatever reason, they want to know why you. That's why they're there. And so LinkedIn, and I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn, because it continually provides the space. And over the last, 12 years since we've all been here, for those of us who've been from so early on, they change and adjust based on what the needs of the community are. It's very organic. One time we had books we read. Well, we don't do that now. However, you can look at my Books and Bites newsletter.
Yes, we do read Books and Bites newsletters. Excellent selection this time.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Miss Debbie Mrazek in the corner. Debbie and I are actually working on a course to show people how to use LinkedIn as salespeople, because there are so many different ways you can use LinkedIn. And so we're excited about that. But one of the things that I so enjoy because of my background in education, it just hit nail on for me with teachers and lesson plans. When you talk about in chapter 1, forecasting, tell us about this and why it's the first chapter. I mean, I think we all know, but just give us some insights to that, if you will.
You bet. So this goes back to Texas Instruments, and working for Texas Instruments, what was coveted there was numbers. There's no gray, right? It's black and white. Right. And so black and white is it has to do with engineering and designing products that work perfectly with your design, but also as it had to do with numbers as well as it should. But, on Monday morning, we used to have, now this is before, Debbie, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm old enough to be before Excel. So this is before Excel, where we still use pencil and paper and a ruler. We would make a forecast on a piece of paper, but in Terry Pritchett's office, he had this humongous whiteboard that had the forecast up there and everybody's, and it was written in. We had a meeting every Monday morning about this. Let me tell you, you didn't go a week and not know you were missing your numbers. You didn't go a week and not know you were 10% over. Woohoo. You knew every single day because you updated it every single day. I went here, this happened today. They're now a prospect. Oh, this one moved from a prospect to a proposal, that kind of thing. And so when I worked for him, this is one of the reasons I thought he was just nightmare personified, was we had to do this every day. Every week you stood up in front of your peers and you had to answer to it.
But it wasn't just you that knew, your peers knew.
That's the deal. And let me tell you, there's a lot about that accountability that helps with sales. So in my brilliance, I left and I went to work around the corner, literally around the corner for the competition, got there, and Monday morning, I am there. I am ready. I am cute. I'm ready to go. Going to knock the world on fire. My customers are coming with me. On Monday morning, they had coffee. And I kept waiting. They talked about the weekend. They talked about coffee. Can I get you some more? And then it was like, okay, go out there. Have a great week.
Wow.
There was no, can I help you with anything? We're good. Great. All of a sudden, here I am in my little cubicle going, uh-oh. So I continued myself to do this forecast always after I left Terry Pritchett. I have always said, I believe it is the key to my success because I know what's going on every single day.
Yes.
3 months, every week.
And I think it's kind of like right now, we're getting ready to end out May, and next month, June, we're halfway through the year. And so often people don't realize, okay, your goals you set in January, if you continue, monitoring those, am I where I want to be at the end of the year? If they're not doing the forecasting, not doing the monitoring, they're probably not going to be. I mean, or if they are, they should probably write a book about how they did that, because that's not the norm. You've got to know numbers. Linda always talks about numbers. Linda McMahon, she's like that. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know if you're where you should be or you shouldn't be. And I've learned so much from her over the years, Stacey. I know that regard, trust me. Thank you for being here, Miss Beth. I think that's one of the things that when you go to malls oftentimes, or I guess boutique stores is probably better. But I'm always one of those people, if I've been there, it's kind of a joke. I know where the bathroom is. No, yes. But anyway, but you go to sometimes the restroom in the back when they let you, they always have a whiteboard when they enter into that room. That staff knows what numbers they're supposed to have that week, and you can see who's making and who's not making it. I know someone in media, and they share that today they want to know the sales and they want to know the social media reach, which I find fascinating because it just shows you we expand our audience, right? I mean, that's what we do. And so, yeah. Now, Debbie, you told a story to me one time, a long time ago. I've never forgotten it, because I think sometimes we think we have to have a certain persona, if you will, in this world. Like, I'm known for hugs, physically and virtually, right? I'm not going to change that because it's who I am. Now, that's 90% of the time. There's always that 10%, kind of thing when you know not to. But that's me, so I leave it that way. So you talk about in the book how creativity is such a key factor. And you told me the story one time of you went in to make this really big sale, very professional, very tuned in, didn't do your normal kind of wonderful Debbie Mrazek thing. Then you get in the parking lot and you do it, and the guy sees you. Don't do that story because it really does tell you yourself. That's what they want.
I love it. Okay, so many of you might know there was a company called Compact Computer down in Houston, Texas, and it came from 3 guys out of Texas Instruments. So we all knew each other and grown up together. Okay, so you work for months and months and months. Think about inventing the first portable computer. That's what we were doing. So you get your little parts all designed in. You're so excited, but you haven't sold anything. You've been giving them samples to try yours to get it designed in. So then you get the order. Well, it came to the day when the big orders were going to be given, and they hired a purchasing manager. So imagine you've worked all these months with all these people they know how hard you've worked, they've seen you, they've watched you, your product, and now you have a brand new guy, and he's over the kingdom, and he's got the signature on the checkbook. So I go in there and I'm just and think about this, before computers, we were having to write orders while we're in front of buyers.
With carbon paper, with NCR paper.
Thank you. So anyway,
I'm too young to know that, but
exactly. So I'm sitting there doing that, and I'm yes, sir. Yes, and that's right. And this, I know, Debbie Saviano, without a calculator, I'm writing for the first time millions. I'm young. I am beside myself. My brain is clicking about commission checks. I am just whoop, but I am writing. So I look up and I say, sir, anything else? And he goes, no, do you think you got all that? And I said, yes, sir. I do believe I do. Okay, well, and he's kind of hindsight. Okay, well, I guess we're done here. Stood up as you do. We both shook hands, and they were renting a little building, 1 story. So the parking lot was just outside the doorway and the windows to their office. So I walk out of there, very professional, and I get to the parking lot, and I am jumping up and down like insane, like the puppy that's about to get the biggest treat ever. And I hear behind me, there's a glass door, and it's like, wow, hey! And I probably could have just died right then. And I turned around, and there stood Mr. Ronald. He said, what the hell are you doing? I said, sir, I'm so sorry. I'm leaving. I'm going. He said, no, you're not. Get back in here. And I'm just, so I come in, I sit down. He goes, just one moment. And he hits the phone. He's like, okay, I got her. Now she seems to be responding the way you all thought. Well, what all of engineering and everybody I'd worked with for months said, she is going to go nuts in your office when this happens. She has waited. Oh my God, she will be crazy. Well, I walk out, he calls it because they said, call them as soon as I left. And he said, I don't know who you all think you know, but she didn't do anything. She was very polite. She took the order and did everything and all. And he said, he just turned around, he looked out the window and he went, hold on. And put them on hold. And that's when he saw me out there jumping up and down and made me come back in.
But that's such a good story, David, because it's true. People want you to be you. They want you to be you. We have some comments. Olivia Williams, who is the sales manager at the Omni Hotel in Irving, at Las Colinas.
We love her.
Yes, we love her. We've all had many events there. So if you're looking for a hotel, please check out Olivia Williams. That's something I didn't mention in the beginning. Please make sure that you connect with people who are on the call. That's a way to network. Simply say, hey, I was on the LinkedIn Live with you. I'd love to connect. Let them know that you were here, because a lot of you may not be connected. Beth is an incredible artist and has so many talents, and she might not know Olivia. You might not know Debbie Womack, who next month, actually, I'm going to have on LinkedIn Live to talk about her new business in CBD. And so I'm excited about that, because she's got some really interesting trajectory. And she even mentions, as does Lori, how if you don't know the forecasting, you don't know where you're going, where you are, where you're going, or whatever. So thank y'all for your comments. I appreciate that so much. Let me ask a question. I'm looking, trying to think here with the book. When it comes to time, what's one tip you'd give? Because you've got some great ones in here on time management for people. If you can only give them one, what would it be when it comes to sales and what we're talking about?
Absolutely. So the number one thing is, and I'm sure there's nobody on this call, including you and me, Debbie, that anyone can tell us what we do with our time.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
the number one thing I tell people is figure out yourself, what you're doing with your time. I have an exercise. It's just, again, paper and pencil, 168 hours. What are you doing with yours? Figure out what you are doing with your time, because unless you know, because I can't tell you, unless you know, and then you can look at it and go, oh my God, I only spent 2 hours last week calling people. And then you wonder how come you don't have new sales this week? So nobody else needs to be ugly to you. Nobody needs to be ugly to you ever, but you need to be honest with yourself. And that's the deal with time and salespeople, is they aren't honest with themselves. They talk about, oh, well, it's this or it's that, or no. Debbie, you said it before a moment ago about where we believe in that abundance. There are plenty of people out there to do business with you. Plenty.
Absolutely.
We are not about scarcity. So when people say, oh, well, they didn't, well, too bad that they didn't. So who else will?
Right.
But you have to dedicate the time to it. They're not just going to all walk in the door to you.
It's such a valuable point, because I think oftentimes, because it's kind of like, some may work in the morning, some in the afternoon, whatever to your point works for us is the key. And that's the beauty, to me, another beauty of LinkedIn and just the internet in general. We truly are connected on a global scale. I was in India a few years ago, and they're literally a 24/7 population, more so than any country in the world, because of their call centers, because they take care of Dell's call centers and they take care of many, many call centers. But because of that, they have 3 rush hours a day, because those individuals are managing those things. So their work hours, and if I'm a night owl and I've got clients in India, then I can work and stay abreast of that. And I might be a night owl, right? So
right.
Yeah, you're but there's to Beth's point, there's room for everyone. We don't need to have that scarcity mindset. And I think that too often people do have that. And that's the beauty of the people that are on the call today. Because like I said, we know all these people and we know how much they're all in that same time frame. What do you think today about young people, or maybe not just young people, but people going into sales for the first time in that traditional role, if you will? Do you think they get the necessary training that they need?
Just like I said about myself, there wasn't training, and there's a lot of companies who don't. There's a lot, it's back to the stereotype, that we have in sales sometimes too. People think you're born to be a salesperson. Well, some people may come across like that because they can talk easily, they talk comfortably with people, and so they think that makes you a born salesman. But I think people can learn on their own. There is no excuse today with the amount of material that we have out there, online, libraries, anything that you can teach yourself, YouTube, if you don't want to read, you can watch it, on YouTube, those kinds of things. So I think people, if your company is not offering you, and that's the other thing, your company,
they can read this.
They can read this. People may be offering you sales training, but the truth is, Debbie, you know it better than anyone on this call. We don't all learn the same.
Right.
And so, the way the company hired for you to do the training may not work so well as someone else, or a different book, a different, like a workbook, a methodology or something. And so it's like, don't give up, find what works for you.
That's interesting, because coming from a background of education and being a school principal for all those years, I think, and I tell teachers this all the time, especially ones who decide to retire and want to do something else in the second chapter, if you will, educators make phenomenal entrepreneurs, because they are gifted at those different learning styles. They're gifted at the different personalities. They're gifted at forecasting, if you will. And so often I see people who I think, you should go into being an entrepreneur. When I went into being an entrepreneur, I knew I wanted to be one, but I didn't really know how or what. That's why I spent 2.5 years learning, because I wasn't sure. But great point on that. And I do, let's face it, the number one thing people research is how to.
Absolutely. And, Debbie, one of the other things, and it took me a little while to figure this out. I, of course, in the beginning had courses and things that I have that, I'll just say were generic. And
Right.
that's fine. I felt there was value in them. But what I really finally figured out in consulting was that working one-on-one with people, if I could help them be great at sales in a way that was comfortable for them, with the kind of customers that were comfortable for them to work with, then they can do sales for a lifetime versus trying. In fact, now I actually use it as a filter in my business. If somebody comes to me and says, Deb, I've got a fabulous team of 10. Tom is a superstar and I want everybody to be like him, I will never take the engagement, because I know there's no way.
Right.
And so finding that gift in myself that I can help people be great the way they are, they don't need to be somebody else, I think is for everyone a real gift in sales, is finding a way to be comfortable to sell in a way that you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Debbie Womack's asking a question. It kind of goes with what you just said. In terms of sales, what are the 3 most important things to know about psychology? I'm not sure I'm clear on the question about psychology. One, I think you just said, is that we're all different. We're all unique.
We're all different. Yeah.
You can't expect us to be someone we're not. I think the other thing I would say that with that is understanding that there's for a lot of people, fear comes into factor. And when fear comes in, you have to take that away, which again is to your point. So right. I think the fear factor would also be, helping people through that and helping them understand that. Let us think through that and come back to that one. That's a great question.
One other thing, just real quick on that, Deb, too, that I might add with that is the curiosity factor.
Yes.
Is really being intrigued about, like to me, I say to people, it's a sport or a game, like, okay, so how are they thinking and what are they, and all, and like, ooh, if they could do it like this, and it, and it's that I don't know the answer, psychology, right or wrong, but it is about people and paying attention and trusting your intuition and being curious.
That's a great point. I think that, yeah, there's so many things going through my mind because of my background in education, thinking about students and teachers, et cetera. Becky Bales, who's on the call here today, she does learning, and her whole business model is personality styles. And I've been to some of her trainings, and she does an incredible job of helping people understand. Because, for example, I was on a call with a client recently in the last couple of days, and I guess it was last week, actually, it's just Tuesday, it was last week. And I know her personality style and I know what she wants. She doesn't want to talk about the weather. She doesn't care about the weather. She wants to talk business. And when you get that call with her, within 30 seconds, you better be talking business. So I know that. So I do. And that's not easy for me because, Deb, I'm a talker. I love to talk. I always want to know what the weather's like. I want to know what people are doing, that kind of thing. But I don't. I respect her because that's not what she wants or needs. And it's not about me. It's about her. So great. That's a great point, Debbie. Bring that up.
And Becky, that on our wonderful Becky Bales there, using assessment tools today, for those of us, back to Debbie's comment about psychology, I'm not trained in that well, but in discovering assessment tools in my career and Lumina Learning and, various ones, help me understand other people better. I may have been okay with thinking I understood them, but some of those nuances and things, I think those tools are phenomenal for understanding. And when I have teams of people, I have them do assessments before we work together to give them that common language to understand each other in ways that oftentimes they've never understood each other before.
That's right. That's a great point. We have Janine with us, and Janine is from Trinidad. All the way across the world. Probably late afternoon there. Thank you for joining us. And Small's making fun of me. She says, I'm a talker? No way. And you missed our great conversation about talking about you earlier, about how gifted you are with LinkedIn, how you and I have so much in common in that regard. Is there a certain kind of going along with this? Do you think that this is perfect because none of this was planned? That's the beauty of these. Is there a certain type of personality style, introvert, extrovert, whatever, that works best in sales?
I do not believe so. And let me tell you why. I know most of you on this call, so you've heard me say this before, most of people do not experience me as an introvert, but it truly is my preferred. But what I discovered young was having extrovert capabilities and getting comfortable with it made my life, I always say the fabric of my life a lot richer. So my preferred is the introvert, which is where, I think in the beginning of sales, I have always been a great listener. I can ask open-ended questions till the cows come home. And what happens if you ask open-ended questions? Then you don't have to talk. That's the greatest thing in the world for an introvert. But the other thing about it is then as an extrovert, then being able to not only hear them, but then being able to talk about what they've shared and how it can work and how you can put it together and how you can create a solution was also powerful. So I don't think, I know people who are brilliant on both sides of that. Some that are complete introverts, never an extrovert, some that are extroverts. And the reason again goes back to no two people are the same. This is why salespeople get paid so great.
Yeah.
No two salespeople are the same. No two customers are the same.
Absolutely.
So when people say that about they want all their salespeople to be like Tom, they're costing themselves money because not all their customers are like Tom's customers.
That's right. And that those customers might not want Tom.
Yes.
They obviously have a relationship with the other person, so why would they?
Yes.
With COVID in the last 2 years in our world has changed so much. How do you think that's impacted the way salespeople connect and engage with their prospects? What perspective?
Yeah. So, one of the things people who do outside sales, only, and maybe that's all they've ever done, have never really, and this has been great for their inside salespeople to finally understand what you have to do on the phone.
Right.
That you can't do in person. And so I think, being able to communicate, how do you write? When you leave a voicemail, what are you just saying, hi, this is Debbie, call me? No, leave a compelling question, leave a compelling fact, give a call to action, give a time frame to it, and be able to communicate. I know many people communicate beautifully in person, and it's why I love people and being in person. It's like I can see your hands, I can see your toe tapping, and I can see you going, oh my God, kind of thing.
Never with you.
But on the phone, what happens is you really have to listen. And then with written, oh my heavens, with email and people who do, my favorite story ever is a guy who sent an email back and just said, no. The CEO of this company said, you need to get help for this or I'm firing your butt. Like no is not a complete sentence here in this situation. So, a lot of people don't think about their communication, what they're trying to convey. They're not thinking about how the other person receives communication,
right.
So they're not trying to do anything bad in the way they've written a response, but it is totally ineffective from the moment they hit send because they weren't paying attention to the other side and how they really communicate. And frankly, there are just some people who did not learn to communicate effectively in a written way.
Yeah, awesome. Very, very true. So that's such a valid point because I think now with social media, are you there? Oh, there you are. Okay. Social media, the fact that people can now use it. And I always tell people the way you use social media in digital space is the same way you do in physical space. So to your point, Debbie, if all we ever do is just, hi, great to meet you. Well, after a while, that gets kind of boring. You want to have some more engagement with those open-ended questions, because people love to share. Because when I think when you do that, you're showing the person you're interested, right?
Yes.
You want to know more about them.
Exactly. And you helped me with this many years ago. And not that I was trying to change, I was more shaming myself because when I write, whether I'm writing or I'm typing, I write like I talk. Like, hey girl, and then happy face or OMG, crazy face, da, 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 da. And I do that when I write a handwritten note too. I've always done that. Well, then it's well, now we're communicating in a business manner, kind of thing. And it got back to what I learned when I was young. The sooner you start being you, the better this is going to work for you. And so I just write like I write. And I can even remember the wonderful woman, Jan King, who helped me put my book together. And anybody who's ever wanted to do a book, ghostwriters are the best things ever. And she said to me, after looking at my stuff, she said, darling, she said, I see what you're doing here, but we have to use real sentences and real paragraphs. So you're going to be limited to one happy face a chapter. And so it was like, okay. She said, because you don't know who's reading it. They don't all know you. I want them to know you through this, but they're not going to know you. You're going to have to do that on your own. Right. But yes, the communication is so important. And there's also nothing wrong with the person who is direct and to the point, or wants to be treated direct and to the point, because that's what they want. But don't do that until you know it.
Right. Well, that's what I said earlier when I message people back or whatever. I'm me. But there's that 10% when I think, that might not be. I listen to my gut. I'm a huge believer in my gut. I think God talks to us and tells us. But there's sometimes I don't do that. For the most part, it's a huggy, smiley face and hugs from Debbie, because that's who I am, and anyone who knows that. And it's been fascinating. That's a really valuable thing you shared, Debbie, because I think for the most part, people come to us because they know our personality, whatever that personality might be. Yes. And so, I think that's really important.
I was at a breakfast one morning. This was like a chamber breakfast, but it was a learning session. So it wasn't just the breakfast. So you're in a U shape, teachers in the middle, and you're there for a couple of hours. And so you're literally, Debbie, sitting butt to butt with the two people next to you. Okay. Having coffee. You're together for 3 hours. And I was particularly intrigued by the gentleman, Warren Hogan, next to me, who had been the head of a division of Texas Instruments on the East Coast. I never met him or anything, but I was just intrigued. And an engineer, lovely man and all. But when I went back to the office, I write notes all the time. And so I wrote him a note just saying that I loved meeting him and some things he had shared. And at the end of the note, I did Debbie, and I did a happy face like I normally do. And I admit that I thought about rewriting the note, because I knew well and good Warren Hogan was not a happy face person. And I thought, oh, what the hell? I don't have time to rewrite this. I put it in the envelope. I send it. I don't think anything about it. 2 days later, I get a phone call, and it's him. He introduces himself. Hi, we met. I said, yes. He said, what is up with this happy face? I said, excuse me? He said, Debbie, in my entire career, no one has ever sent me a note with a happy face that was supposed to be a professional note. And I said, well, Warren, it just is. He said, how about we have coffee? And we've been fast friends ever since.
And see, that is such a valid point, Debbie, because you got his attention. How many other thank you cards or whatever notes has he gotten that he didn't pick up the phone and call the person? So when I first started doing LinkedIn, and because of my education background and the psychology degree, all those things, I did it differently. I did it based on know how people read, know how to keep up on a page, et cetera, et cetera. I was not the norm when I started. That is an understatement. Because most LinkedIn's at that time, in the summary, for example, it's about now, it was all paragraph form. No, that's not how you read and learn. You don't do it that way. Well, I did it differently. And I used caps in some places, not all caps, but caps in places that weren't necessarily capped, right? So I had this guy reach out to me, to your point, and he says, what the hell with the caps? And I said, I got your attention, didn't I? And he goes, boom, you did. Yeah. And so be you, whoever that is. And Anne mentioned that I'm looking on my phone because I'm trying to look at both.
No problem.
She said the magic takes place in engagement. And that is the whole point. We should do like we do in real life. I mean, all of us on this call have our own personality styles, and we all have our own, unique ways of communicating. So why not share that? We do it in physical space. So how can we do that in digital space in the same way? And I think that's what sometimes people forget with LinkedIn. They think, well, maybe that's not this or that. Be you. I mean, I think there's only one us, right? There's only one Anne or Olivia or Beth or Janine or Debbie Womack. There's only one of us. So
Right.
be ourselves for sure.
And
So
Debbie, if I can add one other thing on that communication, this happened for me years ago. There is just a brilliant man. This is when I was selling printed circuit boards, and his name was John Dunning. And he challenged all of us at the annual sales meeting to write every day 5 thank you notes. 5 thank you notes, not War and Peace, but genuine. Debbie, I met with you yesterday. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to try this, that kind of thing. And I started doing it that year as the challenge, of course, to win the prize, and along with all the other salespeople and all. But fast forward, I kept doing it because we didn't have, we weren't to email at that time, but it was a great way for an additional piece of communication, just like when you go and apply for a job, send a thank you note. So I have been doing this. Well, now I've done it all of these years, and I send them every day for whatnot. 2 weeks ago, a woman came up to me at an event, and she had 2 little cards, and I recognized her by the name on her tag, and I had known her mother. I was like, oh my gosh. And she had these 2, and she said, can I share this with you? And I was like, well, sure, kind of thing. And she opened up, and they were cards that I had sent her in 1996.
Wow.
And she had kept them, and I looked at them. She let me read, and they were, I promise you, they weren't 2 sentences, just, more, I love you, go on, you can do this. It's, keep that kind of thing. And it's just like, we do not realize the power of being us.
Absolutely.
That kind thing, like Debbie, somebody maybe who didn't know you today, maybe you were having a tough day, they get in the elevator with you and they go, girl, those red glasses are the cutest. Well, you might got in the elevator feeling like a dog, but you can't help it. Somebody saw me.
Right. Somebody acknowledged. And acknowledged. Lori made a point about that. Why try to be less than you are to please someone else you don't even know, maybe, or don't know that well? Yeah. Better to find the people who celebrate you to be you. It's a great point, Lori. Thank you so much. My
business coach always says, go where we're celebrated, not where we're tolerated.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one. Go where we're celebrated, not where we're tolerated.
Yeah, Steve Strauss told me that years ago when we were working together, because I was like, and he said, where are you? And I was like, he said, well, don't go there again.
Exactly. No, they're not our peeps. Not everybody's our people.
That's right.
Our community. That's okay. That's okay.
And that's just like Debbie, you were saying, many people that are with us this morning are people we know. We know we celebrate and love one another.
That's right. That's such a good point. So last question. Is there something that is easier today in sales than when you first started? Is there something that a tip you could share, or something that, that you find easier than before when you first started?
Okay. So for the young people on the call, this is where you go, gag. But truly, when I first started in sales, I used to spend the weekend at the library trying to find information about who I was going to try to call on the next week. Because in the beginning, sometimes in Houston, we had to do cold calls and stuff. You knew the name of the company, but you'd go to the library because there wasn't anywhere else to get information. So would try to get information. In today's day and time, there is absolutely no reason for you to show up at any sales call or sales phone call that you have not done research. If they're a public company, you can get a copy of their annual report. You can see what worked great last year, what didn't, what are they looking for next year, 5 years from now. You can present your solution, your ideas in those terms. I assure you, most salespeople are not doing that. You can research and see about their employees. You can even go, I'm blanking, Debbie, on the site where if you're looking for a job, you can go and people have written about. Yes, where you can read about how other people feel about this company. Well, if I go on there and I see, boy, everything about the company under their website and, their business report and stuff, that looks good. But if I see people who work there say,
I'm sorry, Glassdoor.
Yes. Indeed, it's where they have the jobs, but Glassdoor is where you can look. But I go on there. I mean, I know I'm doing sales, but I go on there and look about what their people are saying about working there. And, that's the deal where you always take out the top 10% and the bottom 10% because they're super happy and they're super mad. But somewhere there in the middle, and you go, these are my people. I want to call on them.
It's so fascinating because, and again, I know I can say this because of who's on the call and the people who've signed up, et cetera, to be with us. I'm a firm believer in God opens doors and opportunities for us. Y'all, this is like I actually have chills right now because what I wanted to share is my tip in the end. I had no idea what Debbie was going to share, no idea. But my tip is very similar. I just find this so fascinating because ways we can share, and I think we all come together. There's opportunities for that. So what I do is I take the Dallas Business Journal. I still get the hard copy, right? I get the electronic, but I get the hard copy. There's something about, because Beth Bovington said, I like paper and pencil. I go through the highlighter. I go through the Dallas Business Journal, and I will find people authentically, genuine that I'm interested in, and say, hey, congratulations. And I write them a note. I just saw you in the Dallas Business Journal. Congratulations on that. I would like to tell y'all, not every time, but many times I've gotten clients from that. People will then reach out because then the next step I do is I go to LinkedIn and I connect with them there. I mean, there's a whole strategy and process to it, but there's ways to do that. To Debbie's point, when you research, you can know what they're saying on social media. You can get all that information about people. We are in such a, I think, exciting time because of technology, because of all the things we can do. And then things like Debbie shared in her book here with us. That's just incredible. I mean, yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And Debbie, to that point about the Dallas Business Journal, for our audience and people that are elsewhere, your community may not have one of the American business journals like the Dallas Business Journal, but most communities have a business type paper or magazine or something like that. And, Debbie, I learned what you just talked about from Bill Wallace, probably 25 years ago. Bill Wallace is a leader in our community. He was doing insurance at the time, and that Dallas Business Journal was like his Bible of prospects for the week. Every week, and he talked about how he used them, and I saw that. And to your point, Debbie, sure, not everybody responds, but here's the deal: they know you reached out,
right? And it makes them feel good to say, because it's always a congratulations because the Dallas Business Journal is saying something about them. It's like, oh, somebody saw that, not just mom and dad who I shared it with, or my aunt or uncle, my kids, but somebody actually cared enough to send me that. So, and to your point, Debbie, it may be you're kind of like for teachers. Oftentimes they don't know the impact they have on students until many years later. And the important thing is you did it because it was the right thing to do. It was the nice thing to do. So,
well, that's what I always tell people. I have my wonderful Joe Klimek, who I had helped when he was young do something. He kept saying, I owe you. And I was like, no, the way this works is you pay it forward and help somebody else. I help you. And he's like, well, that's great, but I, kind of thing. And because of him was how I got in the manufacturer's rep business. He came one day and he said, I have my way now. And, and I did that, and it was phenomenal. But, one other thing, I know we're going to be talking in a moment more about LinkedIn and what we're going to do going forward. But one of the things that I wanted to say about LinkedIn from a pure sales perspective, LinkedIn is a technology that there is no way Debbie Saviano, myself, or any other human can sign you up. Only you can sign you up. So if you're on LinkedIn, you put yourself there. And because you did that, you understand what LinkedIn is and how it's supposed to work. So I do not have any qualms reaching out to you, whether we have a connection first, second, or third together, about reaching out to you if I think I have something I can help you with or something, you could help me. I don't have any problem with LinkedIn. And I think it's unfortunate. Many people say, oh, but they don't really know me now. It's like, no, they know how the LinkedIn game works.
Well, the other thing too is I so agree with you, Debbie, because when they see you on LinkedIn, and that's one of the reasons, and I think Ann mentioned earlier about the engagement aspect of it, and I know everyone would agree with this, engagement's where the opportunities are, because when you comment this morning, saw an article, was really cool, went to comment, and it said, because of their settings, you can't comment unless you're connected, which don't do that. But so I reached out to connect with him and told him, I just saw it was a beautiful article. It was so cool. And I said, naturally, I want to connect. Well, he connected like in 5 minutes. The point is, when he sees my LinkedIn, He knows what I do. When he sees Debbie, he knows what she does. So all of y'all on the call, look at your LinkedIn. Does your banner speak to what you do? Because you may only get one chance for them coming there to see you. That's our LinkedIn. So many of us on this call love and breathe LinkedIn because of the value that it brings to us. But that's one the course Debbie and I are working on is going to be the whole thing is how, if you're in sales, how to use LinkedIn. There's so many little things because everyone's doing the job. They don't sometimes see the things behind the scenes that you can do to connect with people because it's all about networking. As Debbie started the conversation, people are going to do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. The trust factor. So you can't, it's kind of like people who want to get a new job. They don't use LinkedIn at all, and then they want the new job. And so now they start using LinkedIn. You have to continually use it. And I know 99% of these people on this call understand that because they do. They're there. So Debbie, thank you so much.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, such fun. And I think everyone here enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Please, when you see it, if you would share, just to share all the insights Debbie has done for us and to be able to help other people do that as well. And don't forget, if you go to your phone, you look under this event, it's going to show networking. You click on that. All the people that were here and signed up are going to show up. Go and reach out and connect with those people. Say, I was on a LinkedIn Live, saw you there, love to connect. Because that's how you build. You never know who they might need your services. They might want to take a course you're doing. They might want to hire you to do something. They might want your product, whatever it is. But to be able to do what you're doing. And I'm excited to say end of June, the last week of June, and I'll have this on LinkedIn. Debbie Womack is going to join me to talk about CBD. This is a fact, because I loved it, to your point, Debbie. I love things that make us curious that we're not as familiar with. And CBD, I mean, depending on where you live, and we're from all over the globe right now, but it's a huge thing in the United States, and you see so many places, but people don't understand the whole aspect behind the healthy stuff with that. And there's some incredible things. And I've known Debbie for years. This is the Debbie Day, huh? Debbie
I was just going to say, it's a great day.
If you're a Debbie, you know what that tells y'all? That tells you pretty much our age. Because
yes.
the millennials of the world are the young babies. We were most of us named because Debbie Reynolds was a huge actress during the time. And that's why all the mamas named their kids Debbie. So anyway, very successful entrepreneur and actress and singer that Debbie Reynolds was. But Debbie Womack will join us at the end of June. And Debbie Mrazek and I will have more information later for those who are in sales that you might know for a course we're going to teach to LinkedIn and sales. So God bless everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And it was such a treat and such a thrill. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Debbie. You were great.
Thank you, Debbie Saviano, and all our friends. Have a great day. Happy selling.
Absolutely. Yes. Happy selling. Y'all take care. Have a good one.